Hey, John Crestani here. So you want to start a trucking business without driving? Well, guess what? It's possible, and you can make a good amount of money. You can become rich doing it. It's called logistics. Is a over $700 billion industry. Billion. Moving stuff from point A to point B. There's so much money in it. And I love driving, so let's go over the step-by-step of how you exactly start a truck driving business without driving. Now, step one is obvious. You got to get a truck, okay? Now, a truck costs maybe anywhere from and I'm talking a semi, right? Anywhere from $70K to $200,000, fully loaded, that big freaking bed and, stuff like that. So you got to get a truck. Now, in order to pay for a truck, you can get away with putting 10% down. So if you're talking about a $100,000 truck, you can get away with putting down $10,000, but you got to pay that off in 6 years, 72 months. That's usually, I think, the longest you can actually pay off these auto loans in. Now, a $100,000 truck is about, with 10% down, is about $1,500 a month. If you go for a $200,000 truck, that's about $3,000 a month. So that's kind of the baseline you're gonna have to make in step number 2. Now, step number 2 is you gotta find somebody to lease it out to. You gotta either find a company that you can lease your truck out to, or an owner, what's called an owner-operator, that you can lease your truck to, because there's a lot of companies that are looking for more trucks, but they just want to rent them. Maybe they got a lot of orders in the month of September and October and November, so they just want to lease trucks during this period instead of buying them for the rest of the year. Or maybe, and then there's a lot of truck drivers that would love to be driving trucks. They just don't have the money to put down on a truck, and they don't want to maintain the insurance or, liabilities and all that sort of stuff. So you got a lot of people who will lease the truck from you, and you make your money when you actually collect the money. So depending on your contract with the trucking company or the owner operator, you're going to have to, the third step is collecting the money. And unfortunately, there is a little bit of driving you have to do. You have to drive to the bank, to cash your checks. But let's go over into some of the real logistics here and of how much you can be charging and how much you can make, but also go over some of the pros and cons. So let me refresh you on some of those numbers once again so that you know exactly what it takes to get started with a trucking company. Now, one of the cons is, you have high startup costs, but let me break those down so that if this is an opportunity for you. So we spoke about how you have to spend, let's say 60 to 200K for a truck. Now, let's just go at the high end. So a 200K truck is about, you're putting about 20K down, and then what you're doing is you're paying off on your loan about 3K a month. So when you're gonna have to have 20K plop cash, and then you're gonna have to make more than 3K a month, or else you're losing money in this no driving trucking business. So we got that. Now, the average truck driver earns between $2,000 to $5,000 a week. Okay, $2,000 to $5,000 a week. Now, keep in mind, truck drivers have to have their costs of fuel usually come out of that. But $2,000 to $5,000 a week, and that's $8,000 to $20,000 a month. Now, I was with my wife over in Brighton Beach, which is a Russian neighborhood in New York a few weeks ago, and I was hanging out with my boy Sergey, who's a truck driver. He's got an 84-foot truck. He was talking about how lazy the Americans are. He says, Americans, they take 4 days to go from New York to Los Angeles. It only take me 2 days. You say $10,000, 2 days, Wow. So, some interesting stuff from Sergey here, who is a truck driver. You know, he does well. You know, he does pretty well. But he makes $10,000 from an LA to New York run. So that's about the amount of money you can make from an LA to New York run. Now that might be a little high, but still you're looking at somewhere over $5,000 from an LA to New York, New York to LA run. Now that typically takes 4 days. That's 4 days of 10 hours of driving. It's 40 hours from LA to New York. Sergey, you know, I guess he's got a lot of caffeine going on to do that drive in 48 hours. But the point being is there's a lot of money in truck driving. And, you know, if you did those runs for a month, you know, basically not sleeping, you're making over $100,000 in a month as a truck driver. Think about that, you know? So there's a lot of money here. Now, how you actually charge is what you're actually doing is you're leasing out your truck to a company or owner operator. And with a $200,000 truck, you're trying $1,250 a week is what you lease that puppy out for. We do the math here. And you're making $5K a month minus your lease, $3K. So you're making a passive income of $2,000 a month, which is about $24,000 a year just by owning a truck and not even driving it. That's $2,000 a month just owning a truck, and you're building an asset. So let's talk about that in a pros. It is passive income. You are building an asset. Those are huge things. And you have something, you have sellable assets. You are paying off a truck that you could sell at a later date and just pocket the money. Or you're also the company itself, the relationships you'll make doing this business with the owners, you know, with the truck drivers and with the possibly even clients that want you to move this stuff. You are building a sellable asset. So you're making money in 3 different ways. You're paying off your truck, you're earning active income, you're paying off your truck, and you're building an asset. Okay? Now the cons are the high startup costs. The cons are also that it can be difficult. I'm just going to abbreviate everything. It can be difficult to find leases or lessees, I don't know the proper English, people to actually lease your truck. You know, the truck drivers that, you know, got some contracts they can drive, or the companies that are going to be owner operator. That can be difficult. Now, if you're just finding an owner operator of the truck, the difficulty there can be you also have to write up a contract and collect the money. And who knows, you know, if Sergey goes on is driving that truck to the bone for a month, you know, maybe he goes off and parties in Thailand, you know, the next month. I don't know. But truck drivers are known as a rambunctious, surly bunch of peanuts or whatever, you know, and so you have to collect that money every week. You know, truck drivers are known to have crazy lifestyles like Sergey. So you have to get a legal contract with the owner operator and make sure you collect on the money. But I'd really say the most difficult part here is the high startup costs and difficult to find people to lease the truck. So that's how you build a truck driving business without driving a truck. Now, I personally prefer doing internet businesses. I've made tens of millions of dollars running an internet business. I've been running my own internet businesses since 2008 and make over $1 million, you know, profit in my pocket, everything a year. I have a nice little ranch out in Malibu, California, and I teach it all in my book. There's a link in the description. It's free, and you can check it out. You know, I also come out with a monthly, you'll put in your email. I also come out with a little weekly newsletter where you can keep, you know, I just pack it full of information and freebies to help other people with what I didn't have when I started in 2008, which was, you know, videos and like a step-by-step program of how to actually start an internet business. Many of my students, about 24, have become millionaires. You know, I was hanging out with one student last week who made over $20 million. He owns his own products now, over $20 million last year alone in his business. So if you want to learn more about that, check out the link in the description, or just go straight. We have a mentorship program, and you can look up more information on that. There should be also a link in the description. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment, let me know. Are you thinking of starting a truck driving business? Yay? Nay? Let me know if you're going deeper on it, or if you maybe you have some pointers on it. Maybe you are a truck driver and you can correct me or add some information in the chat below. We're building a community of Christian space colonizing cyborgs here on this channel, and the goal is to go to space, but first we all have to get rich. So let's freaking go. John Crestani, see you in the next video. Subscribe.